a spiritual joint where we talk about all things spiritual, and all things are spiritual. We enter into veils and crossroads and spaces and realms very few see. So we want to talk about this, or these, because it has grown into something greater than the original. I want to talk about this 8/8 portal that seems to be taking over the world every year. And there are a lot of moving parts, a lot of history, a lot of background, so probably we'll divide this up into a few sessions. So excuse me if I'm all over the place, because I just got a lot of information. But what even started this, I got an email from a group that I keep track of. They're mentioning that the ancient peoples, when they originally would see an eclipse or know an eclipse was coming, this is relative, just stay with me, it was not a time for manifestation, so to speak, or all of these things that we seem to do. We're out and about, and parties and gatherings and get-togethers. These were more of a time of solemn ceremony, solemn rituals, and in some cases, in other cases, it was times for noise, because these were events that were not totally known by all cultures, so responses were different. Some of them were trying to stay inside to not be affected by its powers, or to attempt to scare away the powers to make sure that they were not going to lose access to the sun. It was a fearful time. And I started thinking, and it was, because I don't remember this 8/8 thing being such a thing. Sorry to say that twice, but it wasn't such an event as it is now. And part of it goes back to, some of you may remember the whole 2012 let's say fiasco, where the world was supposed to end, and it had been prophesied in the Mayan cosmology that this was the end of the world, the end of times, and we were finished, kaput. The end of everything was going to be December 12th, 2012. And remember, we went to bed on the 11th, and we got up on the 12th, and lo and behold, it did not come to pass. And it's, if I remember correctly, that was when it started the opening of the knowledge and wisdom of the Mayans to explain why this fiasco didn't take place, what happened, why we didn't, get, what's it called? Why we weren't lifted up into the heavens, or why we didn't do the end game, disappear into dust type thing. And come to find out that in the Mayan cosmology, 2012 was not the end of all times. It was the end of a specific season, the end of I believe it was the 52,000 years cycle that had come to end at that time, and they have two calendars that work together. There's a lunar calendar and a solar calendar, and every epoch of time that they come to pass, because they are on different measures of time, so they don't always coincide, but they do coincide at, I think it's every 52,000 years, which lets us know that we've been around here more than 2,000, and this year I'm doing this is 26. We've been around here more than 2,026 years, but that's for another time. We will talk about that. So they started speaking and shedding some wisdom and insight into what was actually and truly meant. And what happened was there was a man named Jose Arguelles who was a person who's studied certain times and seasons and cultures and realities, and he had created this I don't know what you want to call it. He has a process, we shall say, called the dream spell, called the dream spell, where he incorporates a lot of different philosophies and teachings and kind of intermingles them, and it's somewhat based on the Mayan calendar, but it's also based on the fact that the calendar that we do use now, the Gregorian calendar, is not based totally in truth. It was borrowed and manipulated, and that the time that we use now, he's saying, is based on an artificial time, and that this time that we are using, this artificial time, is destroying human consciousness and driving humanity towards an environmental collapse. So he was an historian, an art historian, and a mystic, and he published a book called The Mind Factor: Path Beyond Technology. And this started with him mentioning the harmonic portal, which is probably one of the first mainstream references to portals, which was in August of 1987. And he mentioned things about the 1260, which is what current cosmology is based upon, was destroying us, and this frequency is artificial, and it is leading us to our demise. And he developed this thing called his dream spell, where he claimed he had decoded the tomb of the ancient Mayan ruler Pakal Voltan, and he stated that the Mayans were actually galactic navigators who operated in the natural world of the 1320, which is based on their calendar, where there are 13 and 20, just 260 days. That's one of the calendars that they have. So that's the 1320, and there are 13 moons, which is true, which is why sometimes we have a blue moon, sometimes we have a black moon, which is because there's only 12 months, because in the 1260, everything fits nice and neat and perfectly into these divisors, because 12 is one of those numbers that is divisible by a lot of numbers: 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 3, 4, 6. So that's a lot of numbers that can be divided. So it's easy to divide things. That's why there are in tropical astrology. That's why there are 12 signs, and they are divided into 30 equal parts, because 12 times 30 is 360. And, it's just a lot easier than to actually calculate and understand the fact that in true sidereal astrology, each sign, each constellation rather, has a different measurement. They're not all 30 degrees. Some of them, like what we call Scorpio, has only about a 7-day window. So many of you who feel they are Scorpios may not be, because Scorpio has the smallest window. And I think it's between Pisces and Virgo, they have the largest window, which is more like 48 degrees or so. So all of that came into play. And then he also included the fact that in Egyptian culture there was a thing called the heliacal rising of what most people call Sirius, but was truly called Sabdet, and that coincided with the flooding of the Nile, which brought about the times of fertility, when they would be able to plant and the land would be replenished and the fields would have water and everything would grow. So at that time in ancient Kemet, rather, Egypt, you may call it, the calendars at the time were in alignment. So at that time, the rising of Sabdet would be in alignment with the flooding of the Nile. And, so the pyramids are all in alignment to Sabdet, Sirius, Orion, Sa, and other constellations. And they're all lined up. And, many of the pyramids and many of the other stone structures are also aligned with the celestial. So, he stated that if humanity did not synchronize their minds to make the shift before 2012, there would be a catastrophic, violent reset. And he started off with saying that there would be a signal to rewrite the human destiny, and claimed that if at least 144,000, which is a number that is in the book that is called the Bible, if these people gathered at sacred sites to meditate, it would create as a psychic buffer. Now, truthfully, when people do come together and do focus on the same things do come to pass. But some of his things were not exactly lined up. And so he created his dream spell calendar in 1990 to remove the Gregorian calendar. And this is what started this whole panic around December 12th. I'm sorry, I meant the 21st. Around December 21st, 2012, the end of the world. So, with this urgency, so he spent his time with meeting with other spiritual writers and stating this urgency, and stating that there was a vibrational meaning to every single double-digit number on the calendar. But this is based on a date. This is based on a specific date alone, not related to any celestial thing. And say that because in original times, portals and gateways and the veil thinning happened at specific celestial events, such as an eclipse or at the equinox or the solstice or the in-between times. Those times all relate to an actual physical, spiritual, celestial event, as opposed to saying it's the 8th of August and the 8th day of the 8th month. It's this portal where you can create this, 8, because 8 is the number of manifestation. You can create these, have this extra manifestation time going on. So that is part of the error or mistake of his ways, in my opinion. And we have been, he talked about taking us away from, the Gregorian calendar, but then he creates this double-digit thing where, July 7th is a gate, and the 6th of June is a gate, and the 5th of May. But it also coincides with the rising of Sabdet, and which was an actual event, an actual celestial event. And actually right now it depends on where you are when you actually see it, but it's about a 70-day window or so, depending on where you are when you will see it. We also had this event just recently where there were, Mercury, Venus, Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, and Jupiter are all in alignment, and you can see them. If you go outside at a certain time, you can see them all lined up. It happens maybe every 12 to 17 years. A lot of people try and make it say, it's this wonderful thing, but it's not like it's not a regular thing. This happens on a regular basis. But back to the fear thing, the scare thing. So we are pushing way longer than I had intended to. But so this is going to be the first installment. So be mindful of these things that we're doing, because this portal thing, this 8/8 portal thing and 7/7 portal thing is a fairly new thing, maybe 30 years or so. This wasn't the actual way that the ancients were, and it behoove us to get back in cycle with the times, because we saying it's the 8/8 portal, when truthfully, if we were in alignment, this month is really only the 6th month, not the 8th month, because there is a wobble on the planet. So as the Earth is spinning around its axis, it's also moving around the sun, and the whole galaxy is spinning around. So there's a lot of movement. So because of that, about every 70 years or so, we move a degree further away from alignment from the time in which they written history began. So as far as astrology, as I say, tropical astrology and true sidereal astrology, because there's also sidereal astrology, but true sidereal astrology deals with the actual constellations in the sky and the actual sizes of the constellations, not just 30 degrees. So we will start with that. So just a reminder to think about these things. We'll get into some other things maybe in a couple of days, but also bear in mind that again, it's one thing that we need to be conscious of. And just to let you know that the threshold is coming. There's a moment before every crossing, a moment when you can feel that something has shifted, but you haven't yet taken the step. The old way no longer fits quite the same. The questions have become deeper. Something within you is asking to be heard. And perhaps you've been wondering what comes next. Maybe nothing is wrong. Maybe you are simply standing at a threshold. You don't have to rush through it. You don't have to know what waits on the other side. For now, simply notice, what threshold are you staring at? What threshold are you standing at? We will talk soon. Peace.